Today you're getting our thoughts on the 2023 Broadway revival of Parade and the new pop albums from Jessie Ware and BEBE Rexha. This is Half Hour with Jeff and Richie.
Half hour.
What's up, everybody? It's Jeff and Richie, your co-host, and we're bringing you our weekly conversation on our top theater and pop music topics. We're going to go in depth on our theater piece today, so if you don't want to know about that until you see it, just skip that segment and move on to the pop section.
Yes.
But wow, Richie.
Yes.
What episode is this?
This is episode 100.
Woo!
I can't believe we've reached 100 episodes of Half Hour with Jeff and Richie.
I can't believe
What
it
are
either.
What are your thoughts on that? We started this in the pandemic, watching things on TV and film. We didn't have concerts to go to and Broadway shows to see. And 100 episodes later, here we are. What are your thoughts?
It's so crazy because this really started out as this fun little pet project for us, and we were like, we're watching all these movies, we're watching this TV, and we had thought about this idea in a Broadway theater once, and we were like, no, it's never going to work, we're not going to do it. And then, when the pandemic happened, and we just started doing it, we were like, oh, this is fun. And then finally, when Broadway reopened, we were like, hello, let's go, we're going to 6, and it was our first, live performance on Broadway that we brought that, live in-person episodes back. So it was it's super cool, and now here we are.
I think we used to have so many family and friends ask us, what did you think of that show you just saw? What did you think of that show? I want to go see a show. And we'd be like, all right, well, we're going to make a podcast of it. So many people wanted to know what we thought of these shows. And it's cool to talk about our opinions on this. You come from a music background. I come from a theater background, and we work in those worlds now. So two worlds coming together. Mm-hmm. And sometimes, as you've heard in 100 episodes, clashing of opinions. Sometimes you've heard agreement. Sometimes things we loved, we didn't like, and everything in between. I got to kind of go way back and listen to that first episode and see how far we've grown, right?
Which was The Boys in the Band.
Boys in the Band on Netflix, yeah. Mm-hmm. So it's been a couple years. But we love doing this every week now. As you know, we've changed the format a little bit. We're now in a weekly pop and Broadway space, talking about the things we're seeing. Because at this point, we're basically seeing a Broadway show, 1 or 2 a week at this point.
Because why? It was our mission to see every Broadway show that opened on Broadway this season.
This 20 season. And we're almost there. We have a few to go for the month of May. So more to come with that. But yes, 100 episodes. Celebrating the 100th day of school.
Yes. And we've also put a little bit of a structure here to our segments as well. So we'll go through each one as we get to them. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But what are we starting with today? It is our Broadway Bite.
Broadway Bite.
Broadway Bites. Today's spotlight is the 2023 revival of Parade. So, tell us a little bit more about Parade.
Yeah. So, Parade is a musical that was on Broadway in 1998. It won the Tony Award for Best Score and the Tony Award for Best Book. It has a Jason Robert Brown score and Alfred Uhry book. It was directed by Hal Prince in the 90s, and those were the 2 Tonys that it had won. Now we're at the Broadway Revival 2023. Fun fact, actually, Hal Prince directed this, the legendary Broadway director. Mm-hmm. Hal Prince turned to Jason Robert Brown to write this score, apparently after Stephen Sondheim turned it down. So I don't know if y'all knew that, but I read that fact, I was like, wow. And this was Jason Robert Brown's first big Broadway thing. He had done off-Broadway and still continues to do smaller pieces on Broadway, off-Broadway, but this was his first big thing. So to work with Hal Prince and JRB coming together like that
is
pretty cool. And I did not know that Stephen Sondheim turned this project down. So.
Why do you think he did?
I don't know. I feel like we didn't really get mega Sondheim shows in the 90s and early 2000s. He was kind of slowing down a lot of his work. Maybe the late 80s was the last time we saw a ton of Sondheim. So who knows, But this, so we did not see the original in the 90s. We just saw this revival on, which is directed by Michael Arden, and it is starring Ben Platt and Michaela Diamond, playing on Broadway right now at the Bernard B. Jacobs Theater. I was blown away by this. I've always loved this score. I'm a big Carolee Carmello fan, and I loved hearing her sing the original just in theater school and learning some of the music of this. It tells this horribly sad story, and this was an actual trial in American history, and how someone was wrongly convicted. And a 1913 trial and imprisonment and the 1915 lynching of Jewish American Leo Frank in Georgia. And to dramatize that onto the stage and to bring this to a stage piece is difficult in and of its own way because it could have been a film, right? And not just to tell the play version of it, but to musicalize it on top of it. There's gut-wrenching, heart-wrenching moments of sadness, and then there's romance and love between the two leads, and just how his life unravels to this tragic end. It was told so well. There's so many amazing moments in this piece, but overall, I just really, really enjoyed this. What did you think?
Yeah, I actually wrote down for my overall thoughts here that, I think this show really captured and displayed how I was supposed to feel at the end of this. And my feeling really was just quite angry, but it also had, I had a lot of sorrow after watching this, because I was like, to see Leo Frank be wrongfully convicted of this crime, and you're seeing all of this like non-evidence come about to pin this on him because they just needed to pin it on someone, it just made me feel like, why? And I know the whole point is like they wanted justice for this girl that was, raped and then murdered, but why just pick someone because they happen to be in that same facility? But there's like kind of a lot of questions. I don't know.
It was a very, very sad thing because there was no evidence that he did this, and yet they continued pursuing it.
Yeah.
And there's what I really love about this piece is that there's layers here. There's racial layers. There's gender. There's age. There's, of course, anti-Semitism. There's so many things going on here that you can really unravel. 1913 wasn't that long ago. I mean, yes, it was over 100 years ago, but in the grand scheme of things, I mean, we've come a long way. And then, in some ways, unfortunately, we haven't, because the first preview of this show was met with anti-Semitic neo-Nazi protests. So it's just crazy to think that we've come so far, but we have so far to go still with this, right?
Bringing that up, I think that's such an important question, too, is like, people still think that he did the crime. And even with evidence proving that he has not done the crime, and they're still coming and they're protesting and they're saying he's a pedophile and why do people support him? It's kind of interesting to see like what's the point of that? And to know that this trial is still ongoing.
Well, that is because it was just recently reopened, the trial. And I didn't even know that till I got to the end. So spoiler alert is this ending is amazing. I want to talk about that with the direction in a second. I do want to talk about the set. I feel like we're always talking about the set of a Broadway show, but I feel like this was
hot button topic.
Yeah, but you know what? This was a set revolution for me, and I'm going to tell you why. We are so, we talk about this country being so polarized. It's this or it's that. It's this or it's that. In Broadway, it's become, it's beautiful, lavish, grand scenery, or it's minimalist, bare scenery. And there's this like, it's either one or it's the other. I really feel like this took the best of both worlds. And that is a really smart scenic design and director choice to say, let's do the projections, let's keep it minimalist, but let's fill the stage still.
Yeah.
And so they put furniture from the time period up there. And those were people sitting in the trial, and then sitting in their homes, and then sitting in offices, and then the platform that was raised was the trial, was the jail cell, was the mayor's home. They focused the direction to the front and center stage, and then everything else was around it. So there was this minimalist feel, like use your imagination as the audience, but then there's also like, no, I'm not just gonna have a bare stage. So it was like so smart to take we didn't need clunky furniture or big lavish set pieces flying in and out like that. And then we also didn't need just a bare stage either. Do you know what I mean?
Thinking back to it now, and that you're bringing up some of this, it's like we almost were the audience of the trial.
Yeah.
And you kind of were so immersed into this set because they had the cast members coming through the audience.
And they were in the box seats.
And they were in the box seats. So it made you really feel like, okay, I'm watching this to have my own opinion. We're not the jury, because the jury's off to the side. But we are watching as an audience in a normal courtroom setting of like, okay, we're watching this trial.
And to that point, the direction of it was incredible. I've always been a fan of Michael Arden's work, and I look at this now and I say to myself, you're using actual photos of these actual people behind them while they're standing there speaking. That's chills in and of itself. And then you're starting and ending the piece, and you're really ending the piece with the modern day college kids, maybe we want to say, or young adults sitting there in the park where that monument sign is hanging. And it brought us to the modern day. Like, how many times do we walk by a monument or a sign that says something happened here in American history? And then to say this case has been reopened, chills. I got such chills at the end. Like, that's the way to end this. To say that story this story's not over.
Yeah.
And we need to keep talking about this.
Yeah, I think there was a lot of great moments in this piece overall, and that was one thing too. Were there any other direction choices from Michael Arden that you kind of really were taken back by?
I did like the she was flown in right at the back at some point. I thought that was really ghostly and angelic, and it was a reminder that at the end of the day there was still a little girl that died. Yeah. And this ghostly, angelic spirit of this girl loomed literally over our heads.
Yeah.
And so then there was this like sadness in this town that we're trying to find out who did this. It's being done the wrong way, but this girl died. It's sad. And then you're met with this, like, I mean, not to mention just gorgeous vocals and score to tell the emotions of all these people is just incredible. But I have to just bring this up because I don't know what it is, and I'm so curious to hear your thoughts on this. That I'm like, sometimes I love titles of shows, and sometimes I'm kind of getting sick of, like, blank, the blank blank story, blank, the Carole King story, the Neil Diamond story, and that's part of the title. I miss, like, titles. So Parade, right? And I'm like, why is this called Parade? And throughout the piece, they keep saying, well, it's Memorial Day. We have to go to the parade. Are you going to the parade? It's Memorial Day. But it's Memorial, and this all happened around Memorial Day. And there was this, like, we, like, celebrate Memorial Day. And I always thought it's, like, I always thought Memorial Day was, like, we honor the people who have lost their lives fighting for this country. And we, like, parade that. And so we celebrate with marching bands and flags, and then we have barbecues, and we have the day off of work, and we like have a day. And instead it's like, why do we like have that Of course, there's a lot of places go to memorials and lay a flag down, and there's services in all around America.
Yeah.
But the word parade is so daunting because what was being paraded in this show? You know what I'm saying?
Well, it starts with the Memorial Day parade, but also as the parade continues on every year, it's like, okay, Memorial Day, and this trial is going on, but also what do we end up memorialing in this show?
We were memorializing so many. Yeah, we were memorialize so many things, and yet we don't memorialize maybe always the right things in this show anyway. Because they're saying, well, we got to go to the thing. We're like, well, wait, there's a trial. Someone died. Like, what's going? But then there was also, like, there's wars happening at this time, and what an interesting time.
But at the end of the day, in this show, we end up, it becomes a memorial to both the girl that is murdered and then also to Leo.
Yeah. And it's just crazy that I just love the title of this.
Yeah.
And how parades are just like, it's the juxtaposition of a parade usually means happy things, meaning with this horribly sad stuff going on in the piece. So I did have to bring that up in Memorial Day and what we do on Memorial Day. So I don't know if anyone else.
I did want to talk two last things before we move on to the pop music. Yeah. I want to talk about the music of the show, and I do want to talk about who my spotlight is on here. And I do think the show stealer of this is Michaela Diamond.
Yeah.
I just think she really... she just made it so believable that she was Lucille Frank.
Yeah.
And Ben Platt is doing great.
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
But he was Ben Platt.
Uh-huh.
You know, but what she is doing is so different.
Yeah, she's amazing in this.
Yeah.
And their scene together, that duet they sing at the very end when they're together on the floor, oh my God. Yeah. It's like tears. It's just, this is an incredible production that people need to go run and see because it's only limited playing till August as of now.
And I think... So here's my thing with Jason Robert Brown. Like, I think the orchestrations are beautiful.
Yeah.
And you know a Jason Robert Brown score as soon as, the first note happens. But I did have some issues with the lyrics and the delivery in this show because I missed a lot. And maybe it was done intentionally, but I just think that there was so much happening in this story that it was important to know what was going on, and I missed some of it. So,
Okay.
you know,
He writes a lot of pattery
yeah.
songs, and sometimes when you have large orchestrations with a lot of fast speaking and the sound designer mixed on top of that,
Yeah.
you could miss some stuff here and there. Yeah, yeah.
So,
But beautiful production. Go check this out. I mean, this has got Tony Awards written all over it. I mean, I think, and we're gonna find out in a couple days what those
days.
nominations are. So.
but now we're moving on. That was Parade, and that was the Broadway Bite of the week. But now we're moving on to You Heard It First.
Yeah.
And this is where we talk about the music that we have heard,
Yeah.
the new albums, and who our spotlight artist is here. So, as I mentioned earlier, we're starting with Jessie Ware,
Yep.
and the title of her 5th studio album,
Wow. Fifth.
That Feels Good.
Yeah.
Features 10 songs. This actually kind of was a long process for this album because she released the first Buzz single last summer, which was Free Yourself, which we were immediately like, okay, give us the disco,
Yes.
Jessie.
Yes.
But we didn't know if she was going to release an album, and she finally did. So what did you think of this album?
I love my Studio 54 70s, 80s disco-y vibe mixed with ABBA and all that and dancing. And
Yeah.
I love it. I think she has a nice voice. I think the production quality is really nice on this. Free Yourself is great. Pearls is great. Those are probably my top ones. I actually like the opening, the title. That Feels Good.
It was fun to get into that song.
It's a
this
good
whole
way to start
disco
the
moment. You know, I do want to get into a bigger topic of like 70s music and disco coming in, but I want to, before leaving Jessie and talking about BEBE here, but BEBE Rexha also released BEBE, which was, this is BEBE's 3rd studio album, features 12 songs. It has Snoop Dogg, it has David Guetta, it has Dolly Parton, all featured on the album. BEBE was quoted saying that this was inspired by Fleetwood Mac.
Okay.
It was inspired by romance, and it was also inspired by weed.
Okay, 3 very different things.
Yeah, but it still all has that like 70s-ish vibe.
Yeah.
But this, in my opinion, really captured, and I think both albums are great, but this really captured that 70s Euro dance style, more like ABBA. So we have like this ABBA sound going on now with BEBE, and then we have this more full disco, like Diana Ross, Donna Summer sound going on with Jessie. What did you kind of feel like BEBE's album did this week?
BEBE's album was similar and different.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like they were like, I was like, oh, this is kind of a similar vibe, but BEBE does her own thing too.
Yeah.
And I think BEBE's got a great sound to her too.
Yeah.
They're just 2 different artists. They're powerful women with powerful voices who are just taking on, I like to use the word eclectic beat. I feel like it's not the same BPM or the same, like pop, I love how pop could be anything right now.
Well, yeah, right. So this kind of leads into like a whole bigger conversation here with both albums, both pop stars here. Disco and that 70s sound is really predominant in the music industry right now. And I think what's happening is like the music's kind of coming and it's going. And Beyonce released her like continuous house album, and now if you listen to Jessie's, it's continuous. You can just run with it. BEBE, same thing, it's continuous, and it's similar. It keeps happening, and you're like, okay, wow, that song kind of sounds the same, and the lyrics are different, but I'm like, okay, that one's good, but like, what do you feel like this longevity is for music like this right now in the industry? Because it was so big in the 70s disco era, and now it's like it's having a moment, but does it live on?
Yeah, but I do think that I sometimes feel like the pendulum will swing the other way at times, and sometimes we need like a break from a sound. I kind of always feel like that.
Yeah.
Like Broadway took. I'm sorry, I'm going to bring it back to Broadway.
Bring it back to Broadway.
Broadway took such a break from big band jazz sound for the longest time.
Yeah.
And I love that sound. So when you see like New York, and Some Like It Hot, and these jazzy big band splashy shows come back, we're maybe ready for that. So I feel like with pop music, like maybe that grunge rock of the early 2000s will come back in 5 or 10 years because we're kind of on a break from that right now.
Yeah.
We're doing our like disco vibe, right? I don't know. I feel like sounds
it will always
come and
come
go.
back. I feel like though, I guess a big topic that I've been really feeling a lot, like that I've been seeing on social media and I've been talking with other people too, is like, where's like the it pop girls? And when you listen to something like BB and you listen to That Feels Good, it's like, is it that it sound? Like, does it really embody, like, think of, like, 2008 to, like, 2016, when, like, the Katy Perrys and the Lady Gagas and the
Kelly
Britney
Clarkson
Spearses and
yeah.
the Beyoncés and the Rihannas were all putting out this, like, music that we still listen to today.
Yeah. I unfortunately think that, and this comes down to it a lot too, the market might be a little saturated right now.
Yeah.
And everybody, and I am glad that it's this easy, but it's very easy to produce music right now, put it out on your own, not needing a label. So many people are trying this.
Right.
And so many people put out album, like this is Jessie Ware's 5th album, but like, does the average person in America know who she is yet? I don't know.
You probably didn't even know that she had 5 albums.
No. But I love her
also,
sound and her vibe.
Also, this is BB Rexha's 3rd album.
Yeah, but right. And then like we talked about like Tuve Lu, same thing. Like where is that breakthrough to get to Taylor Swift and Lady Gaga and Beyonce and that
Right, and those
moments.
it girls are still having the, you know, Taylor Swift released Midnight, and then it's amazing, and Beyonce released Renaissance, and it was like amazing, and it's still that it sound, but they create that sound, and I'm just kind of trying to find out, like, are new it girls going to be born into the industry? Like, I think the last time we've seen this now was like Olivia Rodrigo, where she had massive stardom. Like, you heard that song, you're like, that's Olivia Rodrigo. Mm-hmm. You heard this song, you're like, who's singing this? Oh, BB Rexa, or Jessie Ware?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
They just don't. They're just looking for their brand, I guess, and it's
sometimes it's unpredictable,
yeah.
And sometimes it just comes to what does the world pick up on?
Right.
It's kind of like a TikTok trend, like what picks up and what doesn't, or what
Right.
TV show blows out of the water and what TV show some people see and some people don't. It's just it's hard. It's hit or miss.
But it's hard to see. You know, like look even behind me, like Lana. It girl, people know her.
Yeah.
Anytime she releases.
Yeah.
SZA, same thing.
Yeah.
She's a it girl in the R&B pop space where SZA releases something, it's gonna be gold. There you go. You know, so I'm just trying to figure it out.
But
like,
we can keep enjoying this music and we can push it too and say, listen, y'all go listen to this, you know?
They should listen to it, but I'm just saying, like, is it in one week and then next week are we on to the next?
That's not for us to decide, I guess. It's for the general public to decide, I guess.
That's probably... I want to know, who's your next it girl, okay?
Who is the next it girl?
Let us know who the next it girl is. I'm curious. We're moving from pop music now to our next thing, which is In the Wings.
In the Wings.
I'm going to talk about some Broadway topics here, and I want to get Mr. Director Richie and his opinion on these In the Wings topics. Yes. After 20 years, Barry Manilow and Bruce Sussman's Harmony will get its shot on Broadway finally. 20 years.
Yeah, it took them a long time to get this here.
That's scary.
Yeah.
20 years. It's going to be playing at the Barrymore Theater, but... Harmony chronicles the real-life story of the comedian harmonist who sold millions of records in the 1920s and 30s, made dozens of films, and sold out major venues around the world. Their heavenly harmonies and musical comedy antics captured these 6 talented young men from singing in the subway tunnels of Berlin to international superstardom. What happens in this story is harmony.
I think this is great. I mean, take something so successful that I don't even know much about, and let's tell the story.
But this is not about Barry Manilow's life.
No. This is about the group that you just said.
Okay.
Right? Yeah.
They just wrote the music too.
Right. Correct.
Interesting.
I think that's great.
And this played off Broadway
recently very well. No, I think it did very well.
It did well.
I think it did very well. And also in the late 90s, I think it was La Jolla Playhouse. I could be wrong in saying that. It was from the late 90s and it hasn't made it. And so now it's here. Just goes to show how long sometimes, even with a big star's name like Barry Manilow on it, how long sometimes things can take. I think this is exciting. I think this is great.
Bravo to them that it's finally happening. But that's 20 years.
Yeah. Mm-hmm,
it makes you think like, oh, how fast does it take to get a Broadway show? You hear something like Devil Wears Prada is going over here and it's doing this, and how many years is that taking? But now
sometimes it just comes down to
20
money
years.
and rights and avail. Yeah. But very cool.
Also, The Shark is Broken is transferring from the West End to Broadway, and this will land at the John Golden Theater. This play is a fictionalized take on behind the scenes drama at the 1975 film Jaws. Shaw will make his Broadway debut starring in the work, reprising his Edinburgh and West End performance as his father, Robert Shaw, who starred as Quint in the original film of Jaws.
Which is very cool.
I think this is one of my most anticipated shows of the season, I think, because I am so intrigued as to what he wrote as what happened on this boat.
Well, I always say, like, take a specific thing and tell that story. Don't tell the life of blank. How many times is that not working? But, like, when you just pan over and you say, what if we do this? So it's like, what happened on the set? Because if a lot of people don't know, it was a difficult film to when I think the title "The Shark is Broken" is saying how the shark would break down a lot. I think it was a mechanical big shark in the ocean. They were out filming. So I would love to know more. And could it be a film? Sure, but tell it on the stage. I think that's awesome. We just saw Life of Pi with all the aquatic features. I'm sure we can pull something really cool off here on stage. And I think it's going to be awesome, and I can't wait for that.
It's such an interesting thing to be inspired by. And also, something big is happening this week. What's happening?
The Tony nominations are coming out on Tuesday, May 2nd, and they will be announced by Leah Michelle and Miles Frost. I'm saying right now, and we'll talk about this next week, there's going to be a lot of snubs. This is a very heavy season of a lot of plays and a lot of musicals, and there's only so many categories, and there's only so many nominations.
We're going to be having a whole nomination prediction episode, which I'm so excited for.
Because I think we're going to differ on some things.
We're going to differ.
We're going to differ on some things.
We have this little competition because it's always a competition, but I love to win at the Tonys every year, getting the most things right, because how many years have I won?
You always win because you put what you think is going to get it, and I always put what I want. And sometimes what I want is not always what winds up. I know.
You have the two columns, what you think should win and what you know is going to win, because the Tony voters are
who knows? We
interesting.
Don't know. We don't know. And we're going to, maybe one day we'll be Tony voters. We do see everything. So, hey, you know what? We should...
We have seen everything, and supposedly, I don't think all of the Tony voters had to see everything this year.
Well, there's the new rule now is that you were allowed to kind of be omitted from not seeing one or something like that. But I'm like, I don't understand that. But
pick me, hi.
Hello, we saw everything.
We saw everything.
We're almost there. We have a couple more to go. But
saw everything.
Yes. All right.
That's all exciting.
Yes.
And we're getting to our last segment of this episode, but it is the PMD countdown, the pop music drop.
Yes.
Where I count down the 6 songs that Richie gets to decide if he thinks they're going to be...
I know you think these are all bops. I always think they're bops. These are the new pop songs that came out this week, and let's go.
Upsell is song number... Can you remind me of the name of Upsell?
Good Girl?
Yes.
Yes.
Good Girl Era.
Good Girl Era, yep.
Yes, Good Girl Era. Is it a bop or is it a flop?
I thought it was a bop. I like it. I liked it. I did like it. I'm going to put bop on this.
Uh-oh. Here we go. One for one.
One for one.
Then Jess Glynn, Silly Me.
I put next to that. I'm sorry. I'm not really doing this. Fine. It's not my thing.
As a comeback single for Jess Glynn, I'm kind of in agreement. It's like a little bit on the fence. But I'm happy that she put out a new song. Then next we have Peach, PRC, Kinda Famous.
This I said cusp. I have to listen to it a little bit more. I like it. I'm just on the cusp still. You know how I get. I got to listen to
You're on the cusp because I'm still getting you into bimbo pop, but you know.
I didn't even know that was a sub.
It is.
Okay. Okay.
And I love it.
Okay.
Then Jada G, Scars.
Same thing. I'm cusp on this. It's cusp.
These are all growers for him this week.
I got to just kind of listen a little bit more. Growers. I'm not obsessed with any of them.
Okay, fine. And then we're going to get into our 2 spotlights. But in second place, I'm putting Jessie Ware, Freak Me Now.
Bop, because I thought the whole album was great, and I love this song, so bop.
That one's great. Yeah, big standout for me. And then last but not least, BEBE Rexha's Blue Moon.
I put Big Bop because there's a big key change in it, and I love key changes in musical theater. There's so many. But in pop music, I always say there's a really smart producer or writer on that, putting that key change in there.
I immediately had to send it to him, and I was like, listen to this right now.
Love it.
There's a key change.
Wow. Well, there we go. Oh, there's your pop music drop. So nice.
Oh,
Gosh, we are out of time
there.
on our 100th episode.
100th
Wow.
episode. You all right? Well, you all know what that bell sound means by
Yes.
now. So this has been another episode of Half Hour. We hope you enjoyed the episode. So leave us a comment on wherever you listen to the podcast, and make sure you subscribe to our podcast on one of your favorite channels.
Yeah.
Next week, we have some new shows coming.
shows
and
coming up.
New music
Yeah.
that we're going to be talking about. So make sure you tune in every week on Monday.
We release on Mondays, right, for your commutes to or from work as you're getting ready for the week. Things we've seen in the New York theater space, as well as all that pop music coming out. So.
Yes, and if you're listening on the audio, we are now releasing our video on YouTube.
Yeah.
So make sure you go check it out on YouTube so you can see our lovely faces talking about all this
you can
good
see
stuff.
us talking about this too. YouTube, where you can see us, and where you listen to your podcast, where you can hear us, as well as socials, Instagram and TikTok. We're always putting some fun stuff out there. Make sure you go check it out.
Yes. So that's all for now. I'm Jeff.
I'm Richie.
Saying bye.
Ta-ta.